right, everybody. Nick Livingston with this week's Honeit podcast. We have special guest Michael G. Cox. Michael and I go way back. I think we originally met on the Recruiting Animal Show. That's where we originally connected?
Yeah, definitely. I think crossed paths there and probably exchanged heated words at least once or twice.
Yeah,
That's what
disagreements, thoughtful
that's
debate,
right.
discourse. That's a good thing.
That's what it's all about on this show.
Definitely. Well, yeah, it's like it puts you through the gauntlet, right? It's an interesting experience for anyone who joins as a guest or as a participant.
Yeah.
Well, awesome. Well, everybody, Michael G. Cox, he's been working in recruitment for some time, really knows his stuff. And what I like too, you've been in different roles. You've been an external recruiter, you've been in-house corporate recruiter, you've seen both sides of that dynamic. You've been a salesperson previously, and now you've founded your own recruiting firm, Zag Worx, and it looks like you're focusing on sales folks. I guess would love to chat about with you today in terms of what you're seeing in the market, how you're differentiating yourself, and we can talk a little bit about maybe that future of recruitment and talent acquisition and that those shifts that we're starting to see.
Absolutely. Yeah. Always have it a talk shop, whether it be sales or recruiting.
Well, there you go. We could do both. Well, talk to me a little bit about your firm, kind of how it got started, maybe the focus areas or those kind of skill sets or recs that you're working on.
Yeah, well, whenever I think of any kind of a career transition, I always think about there's factors on I call them push factors, things that are pushing you out of the organization, and also pull factors, things that are attracting you or pulling you out of the organization or out of that position that you're currently in. And so I started in recruiting back in mid 90s, early 90s during university, and it was something that I didn't even know there was an entire industry, but I would do it because it paid very well, and it would help pay for not only tuition but also my terrible little lifestyle. But the way I ended up going independent was I was getting to the point where my ideas and the ideas of the powers that be within Xerox. I was leading a large portion of sales recruiting in the United States for Xerox. We just weren't matching up. We didn't agree on many things, interview styles and posting positions and hunting for candidates was they were just not seeing, we were not seeing eye to eye. So I kept thinking, well, it might be time to put my money where my mouth is and head out on my own and test these little theories of mine and see if it works. And so at the end of 2019, I left Xerox and started a sales recruiting firm because my entire career has been either recruiting or sales or a combination of the two. And so kind of a good thing or maybe a bad thing, but it's kind of all I know is sales. And so I blended the two and thought, 2020 is going to be an amazing year. And it was
to go out on your own. Oh my goodness.
time. I tell you what, it had its benefits.
There you go.
Forcing me to think differently about what I was doing and how that was being received by the market or my audience, candidates and prospective clients. And so I learned a lot that year, but we made it.
Well, fun to see things picking up, and the team seems to be growing, and you're always busy. Volume's up.
Yeah, that's right. Well, it's I'm either always busy with good work, or when I'm not busy with good work, then I got to figure out what it is that I need to do to change that. And I think that's one thing that the resulting shutdown from the pandemic, cemented in my mind. If I'm not busy, then who should I be speaking with on a daily basis? So.
And so that brings us to, so you spend your time, if you've got recs, you're talking to candidates. If you don't have recs, you're talking to prospective clients and doing biz dev. And so what are you doing now? And what are you doing to stand out on either of those conversations?
Yeah. Well, when I'm not working on requisitions, yes, I need to be focused on connecting with prospective clients. And a lot of those prospective clients, especially since 2020, were also prospective candidates. And so rather than just hanging up and saying, they're not hiring, move along. Because what I typically heard was, no, we're not hiring. Not only are we not hiring, we are laying off. And oh, by the way, I'm kind of the last man standing and I need to start finding another job. Can you help me? And my honest response was at that time, no, I can't help you with a specific opportunity. But I'd been doing recruiting for 20 years by then and thought, you know what, I can help. And so I set up a process to take an individual from, just pause everything, stop applying for positions. Let's make sure that you're ready, that your documents, your LinkedIn profile, your resume are helping and not hurting your search. And then, trying to identify the choke points in their job search. So, and then addressing those. And so I did a lot of that, especially in 2020, 2021. And strangely enough, not strange at all, I had all of my clients come from that exact work. And so that's kind of where it's grown, where it's grown from with just a few exceptions here and there. So that's been my business development.
Is that what you described and how you actually were differentiating yourself to candidates was what a lot of candidates think recruiters are is,
yep.
Oh, recruiters help candidates find jobs when actually things are busy and you've got recs, you're helping companies find candidates. It's the other direction. It's the company who pays the commission or pays the recruiter, right? It's not the candidate who pays. So it's interesting that distinction that by actually doing and offering services and helping candidates get their house in order, think about a strategic approach for their job search and helping them, you're saying that doing what they thought a recruiter does, even though they aren't paying you, that led to the clients when they got the job, they came knocking at your door to say, oh, now I've got to hire salespeople.
Yeah. And that's wasn't because great. I helped them. That might have been part of factored into the equation. But when you spend enough time with an individual, you're going to kind of learn what that person knows. And you're going to realize that individual is really good at these certain things. And so they felt comfortable knowing, well, if I need to hire a sales team, I'm going to talk to Michael. And so that is something that I try and remind myself I need to be doing at least a few of those type of conversations, at least a few times a month, because it has become a business development strategy. Doing the things that do not bring revenue or scale very well, because it's just me on the phone or texting with this VP of sales who is struggling, because up until that point, we would have recessions and booms and things like that, but never did we have like a complete shutdown and sales teams were just absolutely decimated. So individuals that had been kind of recruited to new opportunities consistently, dragged along, like, okay, this president is over here, he drags me to that company and then to the next company, and I keep advancing in my career. That stuff wasn't happening. And now they're having to go into a job search and they haven't really had to look for another job for 7, 10, 15 years and are kind of freaking out. And so, spending time and getting them to at least initially trust that I wasn't trying to do this for a buck, had them really concerned. But then once they realize, look, I'm actually just trying to help you. And if something great comes from it, fantastic. And if nothing comes from it, okay, at least I reduce the number of days between now and your next fulfilling opportunity that's, putting food on the table.
I, lo-
So
I like your point about doing the stuff that doesn't scale, right? Like, and that typically is this like the low level hand to hand, stuff that takes
yeah,
time and is tedious or whatever. I'd say that all that very similar stuff, that stuff that doesn't scale, is the stuff that's not also going to then be automated. And what we're seeing in terms of automation and this
yeah,
kind of revolution that we're seeing again, we've gone through automation innovation in recruitment for 10, 15 years. My thoughts are it has been applied in poor ways, right? Removing human conversations, automating interviews, one-way tools, a lot of chatbot.
yeah,
We've gone through that for 15 years, and now, AI, OpenGPT, like all of these things are starting to reopen those conversations. But I feel like a lot of this we've seen, and we've
yeah,
been there in recruitment around automation. We're
yeah.
seeing a lot of this. I guess my question to you would be, where does that stuff that doesn't scale mix with automation strategies and tools and technologies in our profession? How do we balance the two?
Yeah. In my mind, again, with the sales mindset that has been burned into me, um, I think we need to protect the interaction between two human beings. And so I'm comfortable with applying automation to the low level, tactics, um, and so long as they are helping scale a little bit, getting me to that conversation and that interaction, because it doesn't have to be over the phone. Once we get to a point where it's two human beings that should be interacting, then I think that's where I grow concerned about removing the human interaction. I don't feel comfortable with that. I'm okay with maybe building messaging, building the sequence, staying away from email because everybody deletes anyway. But it needs to be, um, I would say, kept to those peripheries where it saves you 1,000 clicks, and it builds lists for you, and it maybe helps optimize your communication, but does not remove you from that interaction. Does that make sense?
I think that's great. It's almost like Internet 1.0 or HR Tech 1.0 was like job boards and resumes online. Okay, great. HR Tech 2.0 was like, oh, we can like automate certain things. I think we saw the rise of the one-way interview or the one-way video interview, and
Brutal.
have heated debates on, is that a good candidate experience or is that the worst candidate experience ever?
Yeah.
Right. And then I think HR Tech 3.0 is, okay, we've automated some of the sourcing stuff. We've followed best practices from sales or marketing technologies previously, and we're now doing email drips, and there's tools in CRM specific to recruitment.
Yeah.
Uh, so it's automating some of that stuff. I think your point, like HR Tech 3.0 for us, is now applying new tools and technology to the human conversation. I mean, that's what we get excited about at Honeit as well. It's like those meaningful, human, authentic conversations that are important on all sides of the employee life cycle. What can we do now with modern technology to enhance those conversations, improve them, make them maybe more efficient or better? Curious to get your thoughts on that.
Yeah. Again, so long as it's literally my automation, like let's take LinkedIn for a little bit. Not that I use LinkedIn automation, but on other platforms, it's about the connection request and that first message that says, "Hey, there's a human being on the other side." And then typically it's I will put something together, and then maybe automation can take that to a very segmented piece of that population. Beyond that, I don't feel comfortable because, like you mentioned, 1.0, 2.0, every one of those, by the way, was going to kill recruitment or recruiting, depending on which side of the pond you're on. And it's ridiculous because once again, it cannot take away the the human interaction. And when we've tried to do so, you mentioned one-way video interviewing. I experienced that disaster for a short period of time and said, this isn't working and I haven't figured out how to make it work. You show me how to make it work. And it still didn't work. And then somebody else try and show it. You get to the point where you're like, okay, this is not something that can simplify while not reducing the quality interaction. That I think that's, again, key is to make sure we don't touch that. But there are a lot of people that are opposed to. I've had people quit when I was in corporate recruiting. They quit when I said, okay, we're going to pick up the phone. We're all sales recruiters here. A few of us, probably not, have been in sales in the past. So we're going to call some candidates. They're not expecting us. And I'm gonna go first so you can see me fail. And that a lot of individuals are not comfortable with that. But it's a big piece of this, building this relationship that takes a long time to get to the point where they not know, like, and trust you, but they kind of know you. They kind of recognize you, and it looks like you're an upstanding citizen that's not trying to, talk to them about a franchise on LinkedIn, or trying to sell you something at first interaction. So that the networking part of that can be automated, and it's crucial that you do this today for with candidates or clients that you would like to approach many moons from now, rather than being what we call the ask hole. Like, you connect and immediately get pitched. There's no relationship there, and I can't figure out how to, or I haven't figured out how to properly automate that relationship building.
How are you? I mean, we talked a little bit about how you're starting to apply new techniques to present candidates or present opportunities to candidates, or market candidates, business development. Again, how are you scaling your firm? You're a small boutique firm. You're trying to compete against large firms. Like, where are you finding gains or differentiating?
So, differentiating, Honeit is a huge thing. I'm not trying to, hype up just because I'm on the podcast, but it really is one of the tools that I would prefer not to live without, because I can record an individual I can interview an individual for two different jobs, the one that is right now and the one that could be in the future. And I have that all in one centralized repository. And so I submit that individual to my client in a way that most people do not. And I'm kind of, hoping that Honeit doesn't grow, doesn't sell to any of my competitors. They never, none of my clients ever see this, never see anybody else using Honeit, because in one email, I can say, check out these 5 candidates. And I explain what they need to be looking for when they click that one tiny little link. And on that, they're going to see everything that they should want to see in one spot very quickly. Resume, LinkedIn profile, my business case justification, why you should spend the next 4 minutes reviewing this candidate. And also some, rather than writing samples, some speaking samples, demonstrating not only are they answering these questions well, and either explaining what they currently sell, who they sell to, some of the technical stuff, how they performed against quota, but also that you get to hear them communicate and hear them as if they might be speaking to one of your clients. Are you going to feel comfortable putting this individual in front of you, one of your current or prospective clients? And so I'm able to also, through that, expedite trust, because, Nick asks me, hey man, so tell me about this client, this candidate. Yeah. What specifically? Well, how'd they perform against quota? Oh, well, it says here that they performed against this and this and this. And I'm reading it to them and I'm explaining this to them. But on the fly, this candidate told me about it. and I recorded it, and they hear it directly from that candidate I try and keep them under about 25 seconds. And so they can very quickly do this. And it just makes it easier for them to consume this information fast and trust that they're telling the truth. We're going to verify that, but we need to take that next little baby step, and this gets us there faster. And then for that future job, if something else comes up, I call the candidate and say, hey, this is what I've got. These are the numbers. This is the opportunity. This is the industry. Are you interested? Yes. I do that 5 times maybe. And then I can send that link, those 5 links, to a client, and maybe I remove some personal information, but I'm able to include in my interview notes kind of their basics from their resume, and demonstrate this is where they worked, these are their dates, this is what they've done. You can listen to them. Are you interested in speaking to candidates that I mentioned here or are like them? And again, we're moving this along very quickly. So it's a nice way to package an individual for a hiring manager to consume this information fast.
I love it. I mean, so essentially it's one to many. You have one great conversation with a candidate. You can then obviously submit them to the current client at hand. You've got them pre-screened and available for the next rec that hits your desk that makes sense.
Yeah.
Or are you also then proactively marketing for business development you talk to 5 runner-up candidates in Nashville. You can then email the VP of sales at 4 prospective clients in Nashville and say, hey, I've got 4 pre-screened amazing folks.
Yes.
Just don't trust me. Don't take my word for it. And back to your point about putting your money where your mouth is, you talk to the person, and it's coming from that, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, I haven't done enough of that. I need to do more of it, but it's been fairly well received in the markets that I'm in, which is all primarily Texas.
We've seen some really interesting applications, not only from external recruiters who are using it to again share with multiple hiring clients or teams, but internal recruiters, right? I mean, at Xerox, you're probably supporting a bunch of different sales VPs or directors. All of them are looking for kind of a similar skill set. Maybe one's inside sales, outbound sales, SDRs, et cetera. But you talk to a really great up and coming sales candidate. We're finding internal talent partners and corporate recruiters can share candidates internally across multiple departments or hiring teams very easily in a very similar way where, gosh, if we could find a one spot for this great person somewhere in a big organization without having to have 25 people talk to the same candidate, ask the same questions, this is a better candidate experience. This saves the hiring teams a lot of time and then ultimately helps that. No, some people are using it for internal mobility as well, which is a kind of an interesting new angle. You've got a great top performer in one sales organization. How do you then, they've hit their 3-4 year mark, not that they're open to work, but like you want to be proactive. Well, where do you want to be going? What do you want to be doing within the organization? We're seeing HR teams start to be proactive around those internal mobility calls to be able to share insights with busy VPs who can consider a candidate without necessarily re-screening or re-interviewing every internal candidate. So
I like, and I could have envisioned myself using the this profile has been viewed kind of alert that I'll receive as a kind of like the stick, like you wanted these candidates. I sent you these candidates. You have not even looked at these candidates. So we're going to go ahead and take that job down because we've got plenty other places to put our attention. So that would have been nice. Something to.
We're going to be launching in first of the year some really exciting new link analytics, right? So for all those links that you're creating to be able to go way deeper on where the clicks are and where those links are coming from over time and interesting ways to again, so that's exciting. What do you, Michael, do you do any splits? Is that a thing nowadays? Is that, I'm curious to get your thoughts on splits and that where those have been efficient or inefficient in the past versus how recruiters could now collaborate, with share links and things like that.
To answer the question quickly, no.
Okay.
I do splits with one individual. You know the guy, Will Thompson, up in Austin.
Okay.
Um, and it's the interesting thing is the things that are important to make a split work. Um, it's almost like the same thing, like the signs of a good client. They over communicate, they communicate often, they pay on time, you trust these individuals and they trust you. Um, and then for splits, he does sales recruiting. I do sales recruiting. He's in Austin, I'm in San Antonio. And we've done a lot of those types we've done a lot of splits over the years, even just this year. But I am very hesitant to do splits with anybody else because I don't know them, they don't know me. I don't know what their capabilities are in my specific regions, like markets, industries. And so it's a lot um, to try and work out in that trying to make a split happen. The interesting thing is, I used to say I haven't done this in a long time, but when I would try to, it was the fastest way to get a recruiter to stop asking for splits, saying, okay, this is where I'm going to give you the full explanation of what we're looking for this client, and then nothing. It was just like a fart in the wind. The guy's gone. And so, I've had outside
By
of
saying
one.
yes, they stopped, you know,
Yeah,
bug
yeah.
out. Yeah.
Like, oh, dang, now I got work. I was just looking for it. I didn't want it. So it's,
Well, what's next for you, Michael? What are you excited about in 2024? Where do you think our profession's going? Where do you think the deck chairs settle on?
yeah.
Uh,
Well, for myself, professionally, I'm gonna keep plugging along doing the same thing. My reach is so small. I have a few great clients that can keep me busy. And so when things are dropping in tech and in software and SaaS and all of that, my clients that are not in that, um, they keep me busy. They keep growing. And so my goal for next year, is to add at least, I'd say, about double up on the number of clients that are good clients. And it takes a while, unfortunately, to figure out whether that is a good client, because one of the lag indicators is they paid you on time, and that's paying off the
you don't
rest
know
of the
that.
engagement, and
Yep.
that's like after 30 days, after all the work is done and the candidate starting. So um, that's my goal, and obviously I'm going to be trying to leverage Honeit to make that easier and stand out, rather than just flinging out redacted resumes in an email. I'll be using a bit
Are
more
you
of the
seeing,
Honeit.
what are you seeing from a candidate perspective? Are you seeing a shift from candidates starting to look for jobs outside of, say, SaaS? If tech companies are not hiring, are they applying to jobs? Are those transferable skills? What do you see? Uh,
Yes,
it's not happening.
if they've spent enough time in the repetitions that build the skills that are highly transferable into the jobs, then we're getting closer to a match. The problem that I have, and I'll use Austin as a great example, there's so much opportunity right now in Austin. I feel that the candidate in that region, obviously overgeneralization, has become accustomed to it's like a hop, skip, and a jump from job to job to job, opportunity to opportunity to opportunity. And that makes work very difficult for a recruiter, because I have one client that is great, and now they're hiring in Austin, and they're SDR roles. SDRs are like fleas, they jump like crazy. And so my concern is they come to my client and they leave in 30 days, or they leave in 60 days for another $5,000. And so I see that happen a lot in certain markets. But I do see the desire in the tech salesperson, the software salesperson, SaaS salesperson, to get out of that, because it's kind of like there's the gun to your head is always, if this doesn't work out and you don't hit your number, you're out. And that's exhausting. When I was in sales, I didn't have to deal with that kind of thing. This was several years ago. But I can't imagine people putting up with that for long periods of time. But when they leave that tech industry and they come into something that's very different, there's a lot of grace that they need to give their employer, because the pace is very different. The relationships are way more important. Things are not nearly as transactional, and that takes an adjustment. So deal size becomes very important. Does that match? Sales cycle is very important, and does that match? And so trying to make that match, it can be difficult when they're moving really fast and they got 5 different companies possibly that they might want to go to. They're in conversations with, and so I see a lot of movement still in that industry. One thing I will say, there's definitely a pendulum swing. There's given a lot more power to the employers in the past several weeks, if not months, because the number of jobs that have been posted has dropped quite significantly in the past month or two. And so maybe there is no longer a 3-to-1 ratio of 3 jobs to every employee in the United States, and that may calm things down a little bit. So we'll see what happens with interest rates and all that stuff in the new year.
All right. Well, you heard it here. If you're a SaaS salesperson and want to make a lot of money and with less stressful work environment, reach out to Michael.
There you go.
All right. Well, I think that wraps up this week's show. Thank you so much, Michael, for joining. It's always a pleasure to chat with you. And we agreed on a lot of stuff today.
Oh, that's unfortunate.
It was easy. Will we see you on the Recruiting Animal Show again?
I'm hoping to be on this week, and it should be the last one for the year, so I want to get on there.
Okay, well, say hi to Michael.
Will do.
Hey, great chat. Thanks again.
Likewise.